Welcome to SSkl modelling. For my next build, I'm building this Matchbox Mercedes-Benz SSkl as part of the little 3 Matchbox series that I'm doing. So this one is in the same scale as the other one, a 132, and again this is an old kit. This kit's never been opened until I opened it, so the box is in perfect condition. If you look at that, you can see it there. I'm just really impressed with this. So what we've got here initially is the paint markings on the box. The instructions are the same as the last one really, just your normal affair with a little bit of literature, your paint guide, and then your building instructions. So it's not a massive kit, as you can see. And if you haven't done so already, if you have a look at my Bugatti video, you'll see it's a similar kit, this one to that. So there's again 3 sprues on this one, like the Bugatti. First sprue we have the main body, mudguards, side paddles, fairings and wheels. The second sprue, now I've already put a light dusting of primer on this. Engine block, belly pan, and the wheel, instrument panel, seats, engine and that. And the third sprue is the chrome sprue. So wheels, radiator, pipes and things like that. Now as I explained in the Bugatti video, I really hate chrome parts, but my wife has convinced me to use the chrome parts this time around, just to see how I get on with them. Every time I use them, I don't like them, and the reason for that is when you cut them off the sprue, so say here for instance, you're always going to be left with a tiny bit of black plastic, and you'll never match that colour if you're trying to repaint it. So it's always better just to get rid of the chrome and paint it how you want it. But I'm going to give this one a go and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't go well, I can always repaint it. It's not a great drama. So that's the third sprue. It comes with small clear plastic parts. We have the windscreen and the lights here. It comes with a set of rubber tyres. So the 4 main ones. I would imagine these 2 are for spare. And a very small decal sheet. Now I won't be using these decals. The reason for that is the last decals didn't go too well. I didn't show them on the camera, but they degraded too much. So instead of just printing them off as well, I thought it's not really necessary to have these decals on because it's only the racing number. So I'm going to leave them off. So that's the kit, and let's jump into it. So I'm starting off with Mr. Hobby H11 flat white, and this is going to be a base coat because another white I'm putting on later on, but I need a good base coat for that first. And I'm using H37 wood brown by Mr. Hobby for the base coat for the instrument panel. I thought I would do a wooden sort of instrument panel this time instead of a metal look. Revo Upcolor 09 anthracite for the engine block. This is my favourite go-to colour for engine blocks and any metal surface that is a black. And now I'm using Mr. Hobby H21 off-white, and this is going to be the main colour now for the vehicle. As I said at the beginning, that I needed a good base coat before I put this on. There is a slight difference. The colour's just like an under cream colour. I think white, pure white is too harsh on a model kit or even on a car. So having an off-white colour or a light cream colour is a better way to go. So I'm using Revo Aquacolor 99 aluminium, and these are all for the footwell base plates and that within the vehicle. Also some of the brackets for the pipes and so on, so that will be throughout the build. Mr. Hobby H28 Matte Metal Black. I've recently just came across this colour. I'm using this just painting in the dials on the instrument panel after the little white areas that I've dotted in. This paint is good, but I still think it's too shiny for an engine block. That's why I've not used it for that. So I'm going back to H37 with brown, and this is for a couple of boxes that sit on the feet plate of the vehicle. Wasn't sure what colour to do them, whether to keep them metal or put them wood. I opted for wood. Tamiya's X18 semi-gloss black. I'm using this for the seats. I was sort of looking for a vinyl look. I didn't want a complete high gloss on this, hence the semi-gloss, and a thin coat as well, so that you can just about see the plastic pushing through the colour. It gives it a worn look. So back to 09 anthracite. I'm filling in the metal parts again on the axle and so forth, all around where the engine will be connected. I tried it on the steering wheel, I wasn't 100% sure, so I changed the colour. So I'm using Rebel Aquacolor 91 steel, and these are for the drive shafts throughout the vehicle, as well as the pipe work that connects the engine to the other parts of the vehicle. Tamiya's X31 Turret Gold. Now this colour is really good for using a metal look. If you use a very thin coat, it brings up chrome or silver and gives it a sort of metally shine. Going back to the H21 off-white again, and this is for the back of the lights. So I'm just painting this directly over the chrome. And H28 metal black by Mr. Hobby. This is for the front of the radiator grille. Just be careful here, you don't want to be painting outside your lines here, so I would tarnish the actual chrome if you're keeping the chrome. You can also use a metallic grey colour on this as well, depending how you feel. Tamiya's XF84 Dark Iron is getting used for the suspension plates and bars. So it's moving on to assembly. So first of all, putting the two halves of the engine block together. The location points are easy to establish where they are, and it's just a matter of lining them up. Now I'm using Mr. Hobby 43 Gloss White Wine Red. I'm using this on the bumpers. I thought it'd be nice to have a contrast colour on the vehicle, and I looked at a couple of photos on the web, and a lot of people have done this, so I thought I'd go with this colour, because this will be one of the main colours I use for my next build as well, which is right up after this one. So back to the assembly. I'm fitting the engine fan on here. Now this was a little bit more difficult than it should have been to fit. You may have to trim the shaft that fits into this, or widen the hole for it to go in. It wasn't a perfect fit. The main rocket cover's on next, and I kept this in the chrome, as well as the exhaust connectors as well. I kept them in the chrome. Parts of it I did paint in aluminium, and just to give it contrast, but the majority of it was left in the chrome. For the next assembly part, these are little gasket things that are fitting onto the suspension springs. Be careful how you fit these. You only want them to go one way. When you're putting it on, the recess point isn't 100% clear which way they want to go, so make sure you study everything. Then I'm using again X31 titanium gold, just to give that little gasket colour a bit of colour. Next is the crossbeam selection. I actually put this in the wrong way first time around, so as you see it here, it's actually upside down. I had to flick it over, but that's easy to do if you're swapping the part around and doing it in a certain way. But once you put it together, it does hold quite well. Next is the belly pan and drive shafts and axles. Now the location points of these are not really all that clear. The axles rest on the suspension springs, um, but the points are not exactly where you think they would go. You have to place this, when you place this in, stick it in an angle between each suspension spring before you lay it down, and once it's on, that part's on, then glue the belly pan in, because you will need to hold this in position, because it actually automatically draws in, so you will have to pull that out to fit the actual belly pan. So as you can see, I had to slightly unassemble it because I had the cross beam in the wrong position. I realised this once I tried to get the belly pan to fit. The belly pan will only fit one way, but it is still difficult to fit this belly pan. So once that was on, it was time to put in the front cross beam. There's two tiny little location points for these to fit into. Next is the front axle. Again, the location points are tiny for this, so make sure that you know exactly where you're fitting them on the actual suspension springs. The contact area is not big. These did pop off when I was building the rest of the model at one point, and I had to reattach them. So now is the side panel where the exhaust is going to sit on, and then it was time to put in the footwell. This will need a bit of careful fitting when you're putting this in. You will probably have to squeeze together two of the beams to fit into this and hold it for a few minutes. I wouldn't suggest putting it under any heavy clamp, or any clamp for that matter, because it can distort the back part of the car. But once it's in, then you can just slip in the engine block that fits in really nicely, and if you get the footwell in properly, there's only one way the engine block can go in. Onto the lights now. I'm using canopy glue here to fit the clear parts onto the light. If you do lose your clear parts for this, the canopy glue can work as a window or a clear part as well. You would just fill in the gap, gradually drawing in the glue, and it will dry clear and act as a film for a window. So next is the windscreens, and these are made up just like the lights using canopy glue, and it was quite an easy fit anyway, and I was worried about this, but they just slotted in perfectly. They are going on to chrome parts, which I kept as chrome. Next is the first section of exhaust system going in, and that just fits on the side of the engine block, but the tubes rest on the three little bars part that I put in at the side here. Or on the side of the car, the foot plates, there's these little wooden boxes that I painted earlier that go in, and some sort of canisters as well. I'm not sure what they are for, but once they're on, they just get attached to the side beam of the car. There's a little recess point where they just slot into. Next is the exhaust system, the second part. This is a little bit tricky to fit in. The back part will go underneath the vehicle, rising up through the side onto the first part that you fitted. The connection wasn't brilliant, so what I did in the end, to disguise that, I just painted around a ring of aluminium to make it look like a bracket. Next to go in is the gear stick and handbrake. There's a couple of little recess points they just slip into. It does go in at an angle as well, so just make sure that you get the angle done properly before fitting it. I'm just having a dry fit here to make sure they go in. And then last to go in for this part is the seat itself. The back part of the seat will go in later on. Next to go in is the steering column. Now I have issues with this steering column. It's too long in my opinion. If you left it like that, the steering wheel would be halfway on the back seat and it looks terrible. So what I did in the end, I snipped it down. I did actually snip it down too far, to be honest with you, but it has to be shortened because it would just look silly otherwise. Next to go in is the instrument panel, and that just sits inside the cab unit, and the back panel sits flush with the cab. You don't want to put this in too far inside, you want it to be flush with the actual unit. and then this bottom part, I'm not sure what it's for, but it curves around to form the front part of the vehicle. Then it's onto the radiator. You have to attach a back plate to the radiator, which is painted in aluminium. There's a small pipe that needs to attach from the radiator to the engine. I would suggest fitting the pipe first on the engine block before putting the radiator in, and that way you can manoeuvre the other end onto the radiator easier. So you can just about make the pipe sticking up and just bending it in with my finger now, and then manipulating it with my tweezers into position. Then on goes the front lights. Location points for these weren't really defined, and it wasn't 100% clear on the instructions where to go, so I just left them in front of the radiator with a small gap. So next is the steering assembly, so just the main steering beam going in before the cross beam goes on. The location for this are well defined, so you shouldn't have any problems with this, and it just goes in between the two flywheels here. Then once that's all in, you can put on the main body. You may have to manipulate the gear stick in that to go under the instrument panel. I had to take off the steering wheel, but I didn't fit it properly anyway. It was just on there for test fitting. So it's time to make up the wheels. The first two wheels I'm doing are for the spare wheels. You can tell with the inner parts of these wheels, because they have a longer column in the middle for the bracket to fit down. The numbers on the sprues are not really all that clear, so you will have to look at the instructions to make sure that you've got the right part. Next to go on is a little light that goes right on the bottom of the framework of this. I made it up off camera, but it's the same as the front light. And now the wheels are dry. To assemble them, I just placed in the pin in one wheel, and then placed on the other, and then using a little bit of cement I just attached it to the back compartment. Next to go on is the fuel cap. I left this chrome. I thought it would be better than just painting it. I'm still not a fan of chrome, but in certain cases it works out okay. And after making up the four wheels, I was trying to put on the hubcap ends. These were just placed on with a little bit of cement. Then it was time to place them on. These fitted on perfectly. It felt a little bit strange because the flywheel does stick out. It's not embedded into the wheel. After looking at some photographs on the web, I realised this was the case. I thought they were wrong somehow, but they're not. So don't be worried if it looks a bit slightly strange. They're meant to be like that. Next to go in is the back part of the seat. This just pushes underneath the framework. Be careful you push it in. You don't want to push it in too far. You may not get it back out again. And then for the roof cover, now I used Revlon Aquacolor 06 Tar Black for this to give it a black finish, but not too shiny. Then I moved on to the mud guards. The underside is painted in the off-white colour, I should have mentioned. The location points are quite easy to define on this and how they sit. You do have to hold them for quite some time for the glue to set though. They don't naturally sit there. There's a tiny little cap that goes in between the engine cover and the windscreen. Now when you're putting this on, don't do what I did. I put on the cement, then put the cap on. Unfortunately I dropped the cap and it span around and ended up going upside down. I couldn't take it off, so it's having to be there forevermore. So once that was on anyway, I moved on to the windscreen. Just a tiny little glue on the chrome part here, just to place it in. It will stand up on its own, so there's no need to hold it. So the last mudguard is going on now. I've decided to keep the bonnet off this time because I like the look of the engine. I could have had the bonnet half open if I wish with a small bit of modification, but I decided just to leave it all off entirely. Well, this is going to bring this build to an end. was an okay build. It wasn't as good as the Bugatti, if I'm honest with you. I preferred that one more to this one. Don't know why, I just did. But anyone could do this kit, so it doesn't matter what skill level you are. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out that Bugatti build, or indeed the other builds on my channel. Subscribe to the channel as well for any upcoming updates. Hit that like button and leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.